We got sued by Florence Henderson because hers said porn queen. She was deeply offended.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was the Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Serial Killer Clothing was a clothing company in the late 90s that basically created the meme. And I'm sure some people would argue that someone else might have, but this was the first time that people took something that was pop culture and gave it a twist of the complete opposite of what you were seeing. So they designed the shirts that had pictures, like, again, of just pop culture icons with one-liners underneath them, which completely contradicted what you were seeing. Some examples of this would be the cast of Baywatch with the words orgy underneath it, or another was Pee Wee Herman with the words masturbate, or the word masturbate underneath him, and so on. Bigwig was the band that introduced the clothing line to the Jersey scene because they would have it at their table or be wearing the shirts and have the catalogs on their table. And other bands like Cooter and Lounge and Beefcake, who are local to the area, would soon follow and support them as well. And again, be wearing their shirts or have their merch to sell, because Serial Killer also put out a compilation with Fearless Records, which had these bands on it, along with other bands like Blink-182, At the Drive-In, and so on. It was a cool way for the clothing company to shed light on these bands who needed that exposure at the time. And people would definitely remember this compilation because it had the two porn stars on the front cover making out, which definitely caught my attention many times when I would be walking by these tables, because, you know, you'd be at a Legion Hall and all the bands were set up in the corner, in the back, or, you know, the side of the room. You'd be walking by and they'd have merch here, and all of a sudden it's just like two girls making out on a CD cover or in a catalog. And for me, as a 17 to 19-year-old boy at the time, I was very intrigued and interested in this, so I would stop and say, "Oh, I need to look at this," because I chose to. I put a post out on Facebook and asked if anyone had a connection to Serial Killer, and Monkey, who is Bigwig's old roadie and also is episode 6 of this podcast, he put me in contact with Johanna Hackett, who was co-owner of the company. And real fast, I'd like to give a giant thank you to John Castaldo, aka John Bigwig, for asking me through Facebook Messenger if I wanted a connection. And I said, "No, dude, Monkey already did it, but I do appreciate you and love you because you're great. And you're the reason why I started loving playing bass and had stage presence." So again, thank you, John, for being such a great influence on me. Okay, I'm just rambling now, but yeah, you rock. I ended up getting Joanna on the phone for over 2 hours, and this is what we chatted about: the Black Flag Church, what it was like being in a female band in the scene, Fletcher from Pennywise, the Bigwig story, how Serial Killer started, the band Cooter, meeting Gabe Supporter for the first time, the Serial Killer comp, Bigwig again, Pennywise, Matt Serial Killer, Annoying Girl Zine, and a ton more. Before we begin, a couple things. One, I'm working on my website. I'm expanding it so it's not going to be a landing page anymore, and I'm going to just make it a lot bigger and try to make it more of an experience about that time. So again, if you have any stories from then and want to contribute, let me know. You can email me at thiswasthescene@gmail.com and let me know. Also, I've mentioned this before, I have a webcomic called Daily Bread, but you can find it on Instagram at Your Daily Bread. It's BRED. It's a daily comic I've been doing for almost 2 years now, and I've already put out 2 books. One was just a collection of my comics. The other one was the actual story, an illustrated version of my divorce, which I was pretty stoked on. I'm pretty proud of. And this next book I put out, it's called Drink and Draw, a sketchbook for single people sitting at bars. Now, the whole premise of the book is the rules are: you go to a bar, you get a pen, and you sit there and draw. And each page has prompts. Like, one has, you know, draw the bartender. The other one asks, what would you rather be doing with your life? The other one is draw randomness. It kind of just jumps in and out here and there. Like, one page says, was Game of Thrones a giant piece of shit? And then you can, like, answer the question. Or one thing said, write something that someone doesn't know about you. So the point of the book is I'm trying to get them in bars because I want bars to be able to keep them there, keep them out for people to utilize while they're sitting at a bar. Because if I'm going to a bar, I don't want to sit there by myself and play Cards Against Humanity with nobody. Even if I am sitting with friends I know, I don't want to be playing fucking board games. So this book is just my answer to the things that I do, where I go out and I usually bring a pen and paper with me and just draw and think about all the things that are clogging up my brain, and I'll just write lists or I'll just doodle. That's how I came up with the comic to begin with. If you own a bar, or if you know someone who owns a bar, or if you just want to buy the book itself, you can go to yourdailybread.com. Again, BRED. And the book is for sale today. And if you don't want to buy it, just tell other people or share it because that's really helpful because these are the things that help me stay afloat because, again, I do work for myself and I need to survive and live, and bills are expensive. Thank you again to all the people who have donated to the podcast, or if you're a Patreon, you're my favorite people in the world. I'm going to put those donation buttons up again, but when the website is up, you'll be able to sign up for $1 a month as a Patreon, and just helps go to keep this thing going with the cost of all this stuff. Or if you want to donate one time, you can donate that. But again, I don't think hopefully I'll have the website up soon. So whenever you're hearing this, just go check out thiswasthescene.com to see if it's up. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. Thanks again for setting up some time.
Yeah, totally. I'm stoked. This is it's really cool. It's funny because I was listening to the podcast a little bit and I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that person. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Like I haven't thought about a lot of these people in so long. And it was just really nice to hear from everyone and talk about the scene. And it's funny because I lived in New York from like 2000, I think 1 or 2 to like 7. I'm obviously very familiar with, East Coast New York and all that stuff because my parents are from there. But people are just so different there. It was like so refreshing when I met everybody from that area. So that area is so vast and big, and I mean, people would drive to like play gigs and see gigs. It's not like that here. People are lazy.
Because you're in which part of California are you in?
So I'm from Hermosa Beach,
Yep.
and I live in Redondo Beach.
Yeah, I think we talked about that slightly when I texted you. I lived in Redondo a couple of years ago for 3 weeks. I was traveling in 2015 just around the country, and I stayed. Where the hell was I? I was like, I mean, I don't even remember. I was pretty close to what's the road is it Pacific Coast or is the one that goes across
Yeah.
parallel to the
So
beach?
there's the one, and right at Artesia Boulevard, which is like the 105. If you take the 105 all the way down to the beach, it splits to Sepulveda or PCH or Highway 1 or Pacific Coast Highway, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's the highway that goes up and down California.
Yeah, because I lived like right up the street. I think it was, I totally forget where it was.
There's like the avenues, like Avenue A, B, C, D, like the avenues, and then there's like
Yeah, the avenue. That's
Emerald, Topaz, like
No, I think it was
Diamond.
I think it was Prospect because Prospect cuts all the way
Oh
up.
yeah, Prospect.
Yeah,
Totally.
because that cuts up through Manhattan Beach, and then I would just take that up. So I was
Yeah.
like a couple neighborhoods in from there.
Yeah, Prospect cuts through Hermosa, Manhattan, Redondo. Yeah.
So the way they structure the whole podcast, I could just kind of jump into it. Is like we talk.
Go for it.
Like we talk. The whole focus is to get different viewpoints of the scene in like the late '90s, just right into the early 2000s, because I think just that was the era that I was really into, and like my band played in, and that's where we got involved in it and started going to shows, and then I fell out of it. Probably like 2001, I moved to California for a couple of years and saw everything change to this new fashion core crap for a minute. And even though like I've said many times, like there's a lot of bands that I actually do love from that era, but my heart belongs to the late 90s. And when growing up in that time, so again, the structure is really just talking from people's perspectives. And I love this one because there's two things, because you were in Ball Gagger.
Uh-huh.
And I remember hearing about you guys, because you guys were on, were you on Fearless or no?
We were on Theologian, which is Pennywise, 98 Mute, Cigar, FYP. So like Todd Congealier, who's a pro skater. Theologian is, first Pennywise album. Theologian was just Mark Theodore, who owned a record store called Theologian Records. And I think simultaneously he had a label. He would just put local bands out. So yeah, we were on that label, and we got to do a lot of fun stuff from that label. Like, I don't know if he would call it a fanzine. I don't know, maybe a borderline fanzine, magazine, but it
Was
was
it
called
printed
Great.
at Kinko's and stapled together and about punk rock?
Hell no. It was
Okay.
kind of the real deal, because people who live around here, inclusive of myself, we all kind of have like a Peter Pan syndrome,
Yeah.
like, oh, we'll have kids when we're like 45. Oh, we'll get married when we're 52, and
Oh,
so
hell yeah.
we have elongated our teenage years and our post college years. And so back then, we were all like, back then, I think I was like 27, 28. Most people are like getting married, having kids. And we were just like starting bands, and, so were all of our friends. And so some people were on their like fifth, eighth, 12th band. We did this compilation, which was super awesome. It was a Great God Pan was the magazine. I think it was one of the brothers from the guy from Mother Hips. He did it, and it was 90s punk bands covering 80s punk bands.
Oh,
And
nice.
so we did Red Cross's Poser, and it was about, there was one store in Hollywood where you could get like punk rock gear. You could get like creepers and bondage pants and punky colors, because they didn't have like real hair color.
Yeah.
So there's this stuff called punky colors, and so and it became a scene around that store. And
Oh, wow.
so Red Cross had a song about it. So and coincidentally, when I was growing up, Red Cross, I grew up on 25th Street, and they were on 24th Place. So we decided to do that because they were, like neighbors of mine.
They're
So
local. So let me kind of take it back a little bit because I like to go and do a bit of an origin and take people up from how you got into punk rock and like what got you into music, what got you into punk rock, how that led to being in a band. Then talking about Serial Killer, because growing up in Jersey, one of our biggest bands that we all were looking up to is Bigwig, and
that's so funny.
yeah, they were like it's like how No Effects and Bad Religion and all those punk bands were the pinnacle from what we saw of California. Bigwig was like our version of Fat, I guess, like on the East Coast. And they brought in their merch table, they'd always have Serial Killer clothing, and they'd have this compilation that stood out, and all these bands were on it that we all were listening to. And
Mm.
I just like I love to get it was so because the Serial Killer's been brought up a few times in other interviews, and I was like, holy shit, I would like love to talk about that time, just get the perspective of because you were a part of it, like you didn't we'll come I'll back up to this, but like you didn't start it specifically, like you joined on, right?
Serial Killer?
Yeah,
No, I started it with Matt day one.
that was it. Okay, with Matt, that was
Yeah,
the thing, and then
yeah.
okay,
So Matt is there's a lot of really funny, crazy stories, but
I'm
Matt,
excited.
yeah, but Matt's not with us anymore.
Yeah, that was it. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it's there's a lot of funny stories. So yeah,
Okay.
let's
So,
do it.
all right, so let's go back to so you grew up in California. So talk about growing up. Talk about like when you heard a song or saw a video or something that caught your attention where you're like, "Oh, I really love music." And then how that transitioned into like playing or like listening to punk rock and then playing punk rock, and like we'll talk about the scene there and kind of gradually go into Serial Killer.
So I don't have like a really cool story, and like video wasn't really like a thing,
Okay.
it's like you have to remember I'm 51 years old. Growing up in Hermosa Beach, so the town of Hermosa, my mom always said to me, uh, don't, we always used to ride on the Strand. That's where everyone rode their bikes and played and hung out. And my mom was always like, don't go past, the pier. There's bad people that are past the pier. And it used to be a hippie biker town. And it was a hippie biker town. It was pretty hardcore. And then, but it was always a beautiful town. And so, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but it's the birthplace of a lot of really great bands.
Yeah.
And it's 1 mile by 1 mile. It's a very, very, very small town,
Oh wow.
but a lot of bands hail from here. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like the hippie biker or like just a lot of like single parents, or the beach vibe. I don't know what it is,
Or the
but
constant sun.
constant sun. Like I said, everyone, it's like, people move here, they never leave. You move away and you come back.
Yeah.
And so when I was a kid, growing up, I had an older sister, and she's 6 years older than me, and an older brother. And, my sister was just the type of girl that was like, I always have a boyfriend. And my brother was a jock. And so, and I played soccer, I played sports, but so in front of me was the beach growing up, like 2, 3 blocks from the beach. And then to my right was a park, and it was called Valley Park. And you could hear everything that went on the park, like my backyard fence. And plots of land at the beach here are very small. So it's not like you have these great, plots of land, like they do in Connecticut or something. It's like very beach town. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the beach towns like where, on the East Coast too. So my backyard hugged up against the Valley Park, and they had a what do you call it? They had like a half shell dome with electricity, so like an amphitheater. It was like a little amphitheater, and bands would always practice there and play there. And when I got older, we did the same thing. Our local bands would play there, and we'd get a keg. And so back to being introduced to music. My sister was listening to like Peter Frampton and Elton John, and we had this neighbor of ours. He was really into Kiss. He was from Japan, and his name was Jerry. So he would always dress me and my friends up in like Kiss clothes, and we were always like faces painted, and we were always like, oh, Foreigner sucks, and just like all these, like, we were young, we were like God, fifth, sixth grade.
Okay. Wow.
So I would come home from soccer practice, and I'd hear like vroom, full like guitar, and so I'd like sneak up there, and I would kind of look from afar because the amphitheater was like on a hillside. I had no idea what I was seeing, but there was like a couple girls with like pink hair, and guys that were just, they just looked like they weren't from around here, but they were just like spotty, sort of like dropout kind of kids. And so like Black Flag was practicing there, and Red Cross, and but I didn't know that those were those bands. And then so I was just like, wow, these people are a trip. And of course my mom would always say, and my dad would always say, don't go up there. Like, they're punk rockers. And I'm like, okay. And I would tell my sister, like, I'd ask her, what's punk rock? And she's like, well, it's just, those like weird people, and, like they pogo, and they're like, read a book, go to the library. And I'm like, okay, I don't think they're saying read a book and go to the library, but all right. But she just didn't know what it was because she was, into her own thing. And then when I was in sixth grade, I had this friend of mine. We would sneak out and go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show downtown Hermosa at a movie theater called The Cove. And it played at midnight. So it was like right by the pier. So that was like technically like around 11th Street. And then up one street and down about 2 blocks was, I don't know if you have ever heard of people talk about like the church, the Black Flag Church.
I think so.
So
I'm sure people listening probably definitely have.
they were living at this church, and it used to be a hippie commune. People would like sell macrame and puka shells, and then the hippies started not to be able to pay their rent, and so it turned into like a practice studio. And so the guys from Black Flag were there practicing. The guys from The Last, do you know about The Last?
No, I don't actually. I know.
Oh my
There's probably so
god.
many
Oh my
bands
god.
you're gonna say, and I'm gonna be like, you're gonna be like, oh my god, this interview's over.
So everyone is just so connected around here. It's super crazy. So Joe Nolte was, so there's also sort of a weird division here at back then at the beach. Like I was a Catholic school kid, and then there were public school kids, but we all played sports together. So we all knew each other. And plus all of our schools were right next to each other. So we would let out and we would still hang out with the public school kids. So Joel Nolte had, I think he had like four brothers. Him and his brothers went to my Catholic school, American Martyrs. And so we'd always heard that, like, oh, his brother's in a band, his brother's in a band. And so his brother was in the last. This year, I think, is the 40th anniversary of that album. I think it's called LA Explosion. But anyway, that was really scene changing for, Descendants always give the last props hardcore.
Okay.
They're really, really great. They're really super talented. So Joe Nolte was living at the church. So the guy from the Gun Club, he used to hang out there. Now these people are probably like 60, 62, because, that scene was happening like 78, 79. And so I would go back to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. We would go, us girls would go because we had crushes on all these boys that would go there too. So there we are at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I don't even know what bands were playing because I was so not in the know. I had no idea there was like this whole scene happening around me. I had no clue. So there's the Circle Jerks that are playing, the Gun Club guy, the Jetsons, just all these bands that are just like playing. And so I was like, wow, these people are hardcore. They're gnarly. This is cool. And
This is scary.
yeah, this is scary. I'm scared out of my head. And we're in sixth grade, and these people are like, smoking cigarettes, and they, not a lot of people were like, the girls were more like, looking like, I guess what we would say now is scenesters, but the guys were like crappy Converse and Levi's and Wranglers and white t-shirts and like holy sweaters, like just really scene, just like not really put together, but the music was very scary. That was like my real first exposure to live music.
That's wild. That's so
Isn't
fucking crazy.
it's super crazy only because I didn't know, and like,
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because there was nothing, there was no billboards and shit. Like now,
oh God, no.
there's so much marketing around it because it's been so long since it's been around, and there's this, there's so many people who know about it. But back then, it's when it's starting off. Obviously, no one was going to know. They were just kind of just hearing about a buzz and just showing up and either getting scared away or getting scared to stay.
Well, and punk rock was Johnny Thunders and New York Doll. They were like doing that was like a New York thing.
Yeah.
People didn't think that punk rock thing was going to come to California. Like it was like that was just so far away.
It was too sunny and nice for people to be pissed off about something.
Yeah, well, you would think so. Yeah, it's all sunny and it's all cool, but there's a reason why that whole scene was born out of this area and continues to be born out of this area because there's just a lot of people really, and maybe it is that like Peter Pan syndrome where like, you're still playing music at 30 years old and you're getting better and then you're getting smarter and now you know how to market your band and now you know how to get on a label. And so you just like keep going,
Yeah.
so maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's
but,
like, well, I mean, who the fuck wants, I mean, I worked for myself for almost like 13 years and like freelancing and stuff. And even when things are slow, I'm like, I could go work for someone full time, but I really like my freedom. And
yeah,
and also like when I look at people working at full-time jobs or doing these other things and that's not creative or whatever, or maybe it is creative as a paycheck and a 401k. I'm like, it just doesn't, I'm like, who cares? Why wouldn't I just spend the next how many ever decades I have here doing something I love, even though it's kind of stressful? And I think some people caught on to that. Like, maybe I don't need to have a fucking family and kids and full-time job. It's like, why don't I just try a little bit harder and maybe I'll just play in a band?
yeah, it's like create your own adventure.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And it's like that's always sort of how I have kind of like lived my life.
Why though? Like what made you kind of go in that direction? Like was there something about like I don't know, like what caused you to be like, you know what, I'm gonna just quote unquote be DIY?
Because I figured out you could. People are not really going to say no to you when you're just kind of like doing your own thing. Like it's, it's sort of like that, like ask for forgiveness later thing, I think maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. But I come from a very, very, very traditional East Coast family, Catholic, went to Catholic school. When I was like, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, something like that, my dad came out and he was gay. And I was like, oh my God, I love it. Like,
Oh
I was
wow.
like, yeah, dad, go for it. So I think there's just a lot of things that influence you because, my dad is sitting there playing, like, I know this is going to sound so cliche, but he was like playing, the Village People and Stevie Wonder, and he's playing all this like great music at home. And, I grew up as a little kid, listening to a lot of like that 50s parents music.
Yeah.
My dad would always talking about being what did he call it? I think it was like those guys on the street corner with the leather jackets. He had a term for it, like a hood. I think he said we were like hoods. I don't even know if that's the correct term, but
I have no idea.
so I think there was like a little bit of because my sister's very like uptight, and my brother's sort of like surfer jock kind of thing. And yes, that's what happens here in California. A lot of people surf, but they are also like jocks.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of just I think it's just a personality thing. Like you're just like either you're like comfortable following the norm, or you're like, but there's this door over here that we can walk through too and just check it out.
Yeah.
So let's check it out.
Oh, that's exactly, I agree with that 1,000%. And it's hard too to stay with it sometimes, but I mean, everything is hard. Like even if you are going to like a daytime job, I never heard someone be like, I'm so excited to be in traffic for an hour. It's like,
Yeah, right.
that's pretty fucking hard. So like what like transitioned, so you like you're going to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, you're like seeing fucking Black Flag play over like a fence, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but when did you start actually showing up to these shows, and then what led you to go? Did Ball Gagger happen first, or did Serial Killer happen first? So like,
Simultaneously.
okay, so then what led you to like start going to shows, and then what transitioned you into those two projects?
I think what's a little bit different about sort of maybe like younger generation is that people my age, we eased into like the quote unquote scene. Like first we were like kind of like waivers, like new waivers. And then we were kind of like Susie and the Banshees gothy kind of chick. So like take a little step in the water of being like new wave. And, we were like into Devo in 8th grade. And come freshman year in high school, we started going to the Odyssey, which was a club in Hollywood that was like, oh my God, Adamant and Soft Cell and all that stuff. And then one of my brother's friends, his name was Hank. Hank was the original drummer for Pennywise.
Oh wow.
And they were older, they were like, back then it doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're in high school and you're hanging out with boys that are not in high school, that's a big deal. That's like,
Yeah.
ooh, they're old. So, just seeing backyard, like a lot of music that I experienced was backyard stuff.
It's funny because when I started really getting into this, and because I got into this like 95, 96 when my friends started buying all of these like bands from all these skate comps and stuff. That's us leading into it. But I remember watching all of the videos like on Cinema Beer Goggles and all that like that Hopeless put out. If you see a Guttermouth video or NoFX video, they always were those videos that I remember were set in California. So I had this vision of what that scene looked like. It was just big baggy or long shorts and like the tube socks that were pulled up. Again, this is like the 90s. But I felt
Uh,
like it always like looked like that.
um,
But I mean, obviously
yeah,
it transitioned into that.
I mean, everyone around here, like, I mean, they just always wore like their surf trunks everywhere. It was like you would go to church and you'd be wearing surf trunks, a t-shirt, and flip flops. You would go to dinner, you'd go to the beach. Like everywhere you go, you're kind of wearing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, it was just like I don't know. I just feel like out here, people weren't really like they weren't really like, oh my God, we're so punk and we have leather jackets and we have mohawks. It was more like, oh, I'm going to put peroxide and water in my hair and then go down to the beach and then their hair would turn blonde. There
Yeah.
wasn't there wasn't a lot of items to make you punk. And like it was like a flannel and Converse. I hate to say it sounds so cliche, but it was more of an attitude. It wasn't an outfit.
So what like led you to eventually, because you played bass, right? And did backup?
Yes.
So tell me about how that you transitioned into that.
Hank played drums, so he made this weird bass. He was like, "Yeah, pick that up and just do this, do that." And I was like, "Okay." And I would just like help him, keep time or whatever. I mean, literally, like I've never. That's not, I was going to say I've never taken a bass lesson, but that's not true. I think I took two because my band. They were like, "You suck," and I'm all like, "Yeah, but isn't that the point here? Like, we can do whatever we want, and we can just do whatever we want." And they're like, "Yeah, you need bass lessons." I was like, "All right." I went to two, and I'm all, "Fuck this." And so,
Like I'm not playing the fucking Beatles. Like let's go.
and even so, it's like, who cares? We're doing this for fun. I'm not doing it to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the next so and so. That was my attitude. I just wanted to have fun. Honestly, it's like, why should the boys have all the fun? Like, why can't we do it?
Yeah.
There just wasn't a lot of girls doing stuff. And that's also funny too, because I was a little bit shocked to find out that there was a divide. It was like, because we were girls. People wanted to see girls rock out. The guys were always trying to like do something different. We just had to go up there and have long hair and boobs, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, cool." A lot of times like the guys weren't that cool. Like people that were our friends were not that cool about, like, they thought we should open for them, and then when they were opening for us, they were like, "Fuck you." Like literally, like from the stage, they were like, "Oh yeah." And
Oh
I was all,
wow.
"Wow, you're a dick. Cool." Note taken. Note
Jesus.
taken. You're a cocksucker. So,
Wow. Were there other girl bands like or female bands, like fronted bands, like playing with you guys at the same time?
mm, there was like one band. I don't remember their name. I remember the guitar player's name. Her name was Mary, but I forget the name of the band. And they were so much better than us. The other girls in ball gag are going to kill me for saying this, but they were better. But we had a lot of friend support. We were already on Theologian, and it's not what, it's who. It's definitely who. We just had a lot of history with a lot of people who are doing a lot of stuff successfully, like Bob Becker. He's or was, I don't know what's going on now, but he was the owner at the time of Fearless. I mean, I've known Bob for forever. He was buying and selling coins, and then he put out like, I think he put out a 7-inch or an album for Nip Drivers. So, I mean, really, like my ex-boyfriend Hank, he exposed me to a lot of stuff, and he's like a super, super, super great drummer. His style is very much like Bill Stevenson, very much
Oh
like
wow.
Bill Stevenson. And so he just ripped. So he introduced me to a lot of stuff. And obviously, he was the original drummer for Pennywise. So they were doing a lot of stuff. And just the crowds of people that would come to see Pennywise was insane. And they weren't on any label. They weren't. They were just having like kegger parties. It was just fun. I don't know. I feel like a lot of stuff is just really like happenstance. Like there wasn't any big business plan that anyone was like following or going after. Like, and I know it doesn't sound like very exciting or true, but everything is like, it's really like everything is like happenstance. Fletcher had a party at his loft. Brett showed up, and then they got signed like a couple of weeks later, and then they went to Europe, and then boom, Pennywise was huge.
Wow. I was just gonna ask if like, because you said you were in the party, you're partying with all these guys, and you said Pennywise. The first thing I thought of was Fletcher, and even I hear stories now of how crazy he is. I can't. It,
All true. All
yeah.
true.
And like
All
even
true.
back then though, was he the same way? And we don't have to like go off on this, but like, it's so interesting to know, was he always like that, or did that kind of gradually happen when they started touring and getting success?
Well, do you want to hear a funny bigwig Fletcher story?
Fuck yeah.
Okay, so it was this guy's birthday party, and I think it was his 40th birthday party. And I didn't even really think about the fact that some of the guys in Bigwig were not 21. I was like, yeah, you guys, there's going to be this really fun party, and 98 Mute is going to play. It's a secret show. for Pennywise to play, so I'm pretty sure they're playing too. And I said, there's a code word to get in, so here's the code word. And they were staying at my house too. I was like, I don't know if you guys want to go down together, separate, whatever. Here's the code word, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they were like, and I was like, well, what's up? And they're like, we're not 21. And I'm all, oh my God. I think Horse.
Yep.
Do you know Horse?
I think I've met him. I mean,
Oh
I
my
know,
God.
I'm sure I have, but I know Monkey very well, since he
Yeah.
definitely introduced us. But I'm sure I bumped into him at shows. I just don't like literally remember
Oh, you would
him.
know. You would know. Character of all characters. Like he's a caricature of himself. He is a trip. Anyway, um, so Horse looked like he was probably 12 years old. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have a hard time sneaking him in. So we were trying to figure out how to sneak him in. And so I think like Tom got in. I know Matt and John did not because they were like, peeking through the window because it was on the Redondo Beach Pier. Do you know who 98 Mute is?
I've heard that name before.
Yeah, so they're another theologian band, and they opened for Pennywise for like 7 years, a really, really long time. And the drummer of 98 Mute was Jason from Pennywise. That's his brother.
Like Jason, like the
Like R.I.P. Jason, yeah.
yeah, okay.
They took them on tour, and so they were playing. Great, super awesome, fun night. It was super cool. And, all of our friends are there. And so, there was a few bigwig guys in, few bigwig guys out. So afterwards, of course, the club gets shut down as usual. Fletcher's like, oh yeah, let's have a party at my house. And I was like, okay, you guys, we're going to go to a party at Fletcher's. And they were like, what? And I was like,
Jesus.
yeah, it's just like right up the street. And they were like, oh my God, crazy. And so I said, if you guys want to get beers now, and that's another thing that I always kind of tripped out on is that we were all like big partiers, but it just seemed like people didn't party as much like on the East Coast in that scene of kids. And I always thought like, that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah, yeah. I always felt it was always a bigger thing in California from whatever we heard.
Peter Pan. So, so we park and we go inside and everyone's partying. And so everyone's like, what's up? And I'm like, yeah, these are the guys in Bigwig. And they're like, yeah, we've heard of you guys, blah, blah, blah. And, just hanging out, partying, whatever. And then one thing led to another. And Randy from Pennywise got into Fletcher's car. And of course, Fletcher's like revving up his car. And it's like, vroom, vroom. And, the guys in Bigwig are like, he probably shouldn't drive. I'm like, you think? And so there's Randy and, Fletcher's like, he's like a cheerleader. He just likes to get everybody riled up. He's like, revving the car. Everyone's partying. It's all crazy. And no, Fletcher, don't take the car. You'll kill yourself. And blah, 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 drama, drama, drama. Fletcher just throws it in drive, takes off and runs smack into this house and takes down the fence. Randy and Fletcher, they just go running. Everyone's just keeps partying and like, that's Fletcher, and it wasn't like so passe that it was like, oh, that's just Fletcher. It wasn't that bad, but we were like, oh shit, the cops are going to show up. They're going to break up the party. Oh my God. And the guys in Bigwig are like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Are we going to get arrested? They were sort of like, oh my, and I wouldn't be used to that either. Like, even though I know how this whole like thing pans out, I know the end of the story. If I was in another state, I would feel the same way. Like, oh my God, like, am I going to go to jail?
Oh, fuck yeah.
So, Horse is like, oh shit. Horse has never seen anything like this in his life. I was like, yeah, if you guys want to take off, they're like, yeah, let's leave. And so I was like, all right. And so it took us like a few minutes to leave. And then the cops show up and, they were just like, oh, because they're young, like, and I don't know, are they going to go to jail for it being 3:00 in the morning? I don't know. So they were totally freaked out. And we ended up leaving and going back to my house and just like going to bed. And they were just like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah.
Like a fucking guy who we idolized just drove into a fucking house.
Yeah, and it was just like another day hanging out, you know. But that's just that's yeah, all the stories are true. That's it's all Fletcher. He likes to have a good time, and you know
Like to fucking
he's
rage.
well, and you know he's just such a he's just a really good guy. He would give his shirt off his back for you. He's a really great human being. And I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's gnarly, he's a dick, but he's so not. He's just like it's just about fun. It's really just about having a good time. And not everyone considers crashing a car and running from the cops a good time, you know, but it's funny. They're great stories. So yeah, there's 1,000 of those, you know, Fletcher stories.
Yeah. Now, kind of leading up to that, just like prior to that, or obviously maybe a lot prior to that. How did you start serial killer? Like, because you said it happened at the simultaneously with ball gagger.
I was working for the Forum,
What was the forum?
the Great Western Forum, like the Lakers and the Kings, the
Oh, okay.
Forum,
Oh, wow.
like I guess what would be like I don't know Madison Square Garden or whatever. It's so the Forum in Inglewood. Dr. Buss was very involved in the day to day. He would be showing up at like local places where all the young girls were. He was kind of a creep. And it was around the era where Magic Johnson had come out as, you know, having AIDS, and there was a lot of stuff going on at the Forum. And so they had a distribution center in Inglewood. And coincidentally, Matt's father's engineering firm was right up the street. So I'd be in the back at the distribution center and I would see Matt. And Matt, God, there's so much history here. So let me back up a little bit.
Sure.
Matt lived next door to Hank, and Hank lived on First Street in Manhattan Beach. And there was a parking lot next to Hank's house, and it was called The Lot. And we all hung out there. And like we partied there, bands would play there. It was just a little scene around the lot. Matt was not like into music. He wasn't into anything like that. He was into surfing and school, but he lived next door. And I was like, "Hey, what's up, Matt? What's up, Matt?" So the first time I saw him driving by, I'm all, "What are you doing here?" He's all, "What are you doing here?" And I'm all, "Well, you know, this is our distribution center here." He's like, "My dad, you know, is working up the street." And he's also, you know, well, we start talking, and he's like, "Yeah, he's all, I got a chunk of money back from." He was going to USC. He goes, "I got a chunk of money back from USC." And I said, "Well, you don't just get a refund from USC. What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, I went to rehab in the middle of the semester, so they refunded the money back to me. And my parents don't know, and I want to start a clothing company." And I said, "Awesome!" And because I at the Forum, I worked in the merchandising and marketing department. And I was like,
Ah.
"Awesome." He goes, "Do you want to talk about it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." We sat down and talked about it. I said, "All right, well, this is like if we're going to go full throttle, then this is like full throttle. You can't just kind of sorta." He's like, "I'm down." I'm like, "All right, well, where are we going to set up shop?" And he's like, "Well, right up the street at my dad's place." I'm like, "Oh God, all right, well, a little uncomfortable. It'll be like right up the street from my old job, but all right, let's do it."
What was the idea? What was the idea behind it? Like when you guys, there was, I want to start a clothing line. When two people get together and talk, they have to find the same vision. And serial killer was, to me, it seemed very specific. So like, what was the conversation like where you both said, this is where one of you presented an idea and it was, okay, clothing line, but let's narrow this down and come up with a name and come up with like what we're going to do. So like, what was that conversation?
Back to what I said, one would think that there would be a business plan and you would execute it, right? Not so much. So I just thought Matt was really funny because he was. And Matt was like a genius in his own realm. Like he's probably he's just the funniest person. He's extremely smart, and never had to put forth much effort to be smart. He just was smart. Super charming, super extremely outrageous person. I mean, so outrageous. He did not give a shit. I mean, he had the balls of a bull. I mean, he was crazy. And I loved that. I would be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, let's do it. Let's do it. Originally, it was, it was like that serial killer stuff. And I was like, that stuff's aight, but like, it's just weirdos. Like, we're just like selling to like weirdo shops. And remember, there wasn't even Hot Topic that was around. And like, I said, we gotta do something like just different and better. And he was really into, movies. And he said, hey, what about this stuff? I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Oh my God, that's hilarious. So he would just like spit the ideas out. And what I did is I would like catch them and sort of morph them into like a vibe. Like I would say like, okay, do more of this. Okay, do more of that. Okay, do more of this. And so what ended up happening is that we morphed it into something where like there was something here for like the gangbangers, which was like, the world is yours, the Carlito's Way, and the Scarface stuff. And
Yeah.
then he was doing some like Brady stuff, and I'm like, okay, bitchin', this is the retro sort of, TV kind of stuff. And then he was doing some like Marilyn Monroe and Elvis, and I'm like, okay, this is great. This is the icons. And then, did some stoner stuff. And then there was just other stuff that was just funny. We morphed that sort of into, then we really started to create like a business plan and a target audience, really see like where our buying power was.
Okay.
Everybody loved it.
Yeah, because as you're saying this, I'm remembering like the Bob Barker shirt that said like hustler or pimp or something like that.
Pimp.
Pimp. Yeah, that was the thing because it was just like,
Mr. Rogers, it said pervert.
yeah.
And here's the thing, Mr. Rogers is probably like the only person that hasn't been busted for sexual harassment. You know what I mean? Like in the temperature that we live in now, it's like everyone's looking to see like, does anyone have a Mr. Rogers story? And it's like, no, his hands are so clean.
Did you see the documentary on him?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's like when I saw that, I was
Such a
like,
good man.
I know, I was
Such
like,
a good man.
I was waiting for something to come out about him, but it was like, oh
Nothing.
wow, and I just cried the whole time when I watched it.
And I really think like people were like, were really digging for something because it's like, that would be the quote unquote obvious, like,
Yep.
but no, he's just whatever. So
how did you like when I remember seeing that stuff too, and in this, the 17-year-old mind that I had for some reason, I was like, how are they not getting like sued for this
busted?
shit? Yeah.
At that time, remember everyone was doing like a logo of like Tide, and then it would say like weed, or like people were doing that sort of like logo and like trying
Oh
to
yeah.
make it funny, and it like really wasn't funny. It was kind of corny.
Yep.
The stuff that Matt was doing, because he was like the art, I was the business. And he would just like spit stuff out, that he thought was really good. And obviously not everything was a hit, but it's like the more content he produced, the easier it was to create like a business plan. It was easier to sell. But what we did, clearly remember this. And I don't know, maybe people do it all the time, but I've never heard of people doing this back then, since then, or recently. But what we would do is we would call stores, like, and again, just making this up, like in North Carolina or something, we call up stores that were like the cool hip stores that were selling like Porn Star, or remember those jeans? I think they were called Jenkos.
Oh, I've talked
Like,
about them so many times in these interviews.
Oh my God.
So many
they'd
times.
They'd be selling that, or they'd be selling like, piercing stuff, And remember back then, the mom and pop shops were plentiful. They were big. They were all over. So
Yeah.
there wasn't like, they weren't dying. They were totally like, all kinds of stuff was blowing up because there was sort of like, the dress up thing was going on. People were just like feeling confident enough to wear like raver shit and punker stuff and goth shit. And we'd be like, hi, I have a question for you. Do you carry that brand serial killer that has the t-shirts with all the funny stuff on there? Oh, you don't? Okay, never mind. We'll go down the streets to Fred's t-shirt shop. Okay, bye. So we would create this anxiety with the buyers at these stores. And then we would have bands go into the stores and be like, hey, do you have serial kill? Oh, you don't? Okay, never
Oh
mind.
my God, that's so fucking genius. I love it.
And so then it was just like, it worked. It was a combination of bands, that effort of creating like an anxiety or a,
A
that
need.
desire, that need, that they had to have it, because it was like, oh shit, when people come in for a serial killer t-shirt or any one thing, they're going to buy something else. So they're losing money. So then people just started calling like, hey, send us a catalog. Again,
Oh, wow.
the internet was out, but it wasn't really a thing. We didn't even have a website. So everything was like,
Okay, so I'm so fascinated by this because I got into graphic design because I wanted to start a t-shirt company. So I'm going to
mhm.
try to like balance this where I
Everybody does because they think it's so easy.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not.
It's so
It's
fucking
not.
hard. Well, it's just any product. You make something and you're like, okay, I have this thing, but how do you get people there? And how the fuck do you get them to want it? Because people are very specific about what they buy. But if you're very
Hmm.
niche down and targeted, like this podcast is very specific, and I've said so many times, but it's very specific about the 90s scene, so it draws a very specific group of people to want to hear it.
Hmm.
But like from what you figured out, and I'm so fascinated by this because designers will start. So if Matt started this on his own, he probably would have been screwed. Maybe it's just kind of a guess because designers are designers and they're not marketers. So that he like
Matt could play the piano. Matt could play the xylophone. Matt could play any instrument. Matt was
he was
art.
creative. Yeah, he was pure
Matt
art.
could not do anything else. He could not barely write a check.
But
I mean,
like that was so smart to know where he couldn't get it done, and then you picked up that other side that you were like, I know how to do this shit, or I have an idea of how to do this shit, so let me do that part. And I think that's just I think it's just fucking awesome.
well, and Matt and I were, I mean, we were brother sister, arch enemies. We were partners. We
Yep.
were, we loved each other. We hated each other. But the first person who I talked to in the morning was Matt, and the last person I talked to at night was Matt.
It's
And
like a
I
marriage. A
mean,
business partnership is like a marriage.
totally. He was a lot. He was a lot to handle. A lot to handle.
Did you find that he just had so many ideas that you had to really like reel him in and say, "All right, man, like we need to finish these first 20 that you gave me before we tackle all these other ones."
No, no, because I'd just be like, eh, eh. And then some would be like, oh, okay, and then he would be like, no, 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 I really believe in this. Let's try this one. And like, what are you hurting? Like, there's nothing that you can hurt, because we would just be like, okay, let's just make a copy of this design or put these 10 copies, give them a line item. And if people buy it, great. If they don't, great. Because the way that we turned over our production was so quick. We would always say like, whatever, 4 weeks for production, but we would get stuff out like usually like same day or next day. But if people started buying something, we would want to get a couple orders, and then, we would either cancel or replace.
So he would design it in whatever design program, and you would just get a stockpile of X amount of shirts and then house them at your office and then just mail them out yourself when people finally started hearing about it?
Yes, we did all the manufacturing for the printing in-house.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we had a
Damn.
full warehouse crew. We had a full sales staff. I mean, but we worked up to that. Like,
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
didn't start out like that.
That's why
Like,
like how it started out. That's why I want to know. Like, how did
yeah,
you begin
so
like
okay,
that?
I'll rewind. So what happened is here I am, I'm playing in a band. Oh, and I forgot, like, probably one key part of this that might be interesting for this podcast. When we
Yes.
started to get a little bit of money, we started Serial Killer Skates. Fletcher was a partner in Serial Killer Skates.
Oh,
That's
wow.
probably like a huge thing I left out. When we started this out, like I said, I was playing in a band. When you start a business, it's a lot of work, man. It's
Yeah.
a lot of work. And I was like 28. I was cool with the work, but I was there like, God, it was like 6 in the morning to like 8 o'clock at night. And I was like, if you guys want to have band practice, you guys got to come here, like bring your equipment here. Like, and sometimes we would practice, down the street at Wrecking Ball. And El Segundo also is like World Industries was in El Segundo. There was a
Okay.
lot of like road equipment companies there. You could practice like practically on the street and no one would say anything. You know what I mean? Because on one side is the airport and on the other side is a big, huge Chevron plant. We would practice really late at night sometimes. And so, Matt was like, when you're playing on stage, just wear like the shit, wear the serial killer stuff. And I was like, it's not that cute. And and I was always like, no, like, this is what I do for a living. I don't want to wear like a junkie t-shirt. Like, no, like,
I don't want to wear my own product.
yeah, like it feels corny to me. I'm not going to wear it, but I'll get the other bands to wear it. And he was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
And so then the way the whole East Coast thing started was truly through Bigwig. What happened was we started Serial Killer, and Bob Becker had a big, huge birthday party. There was like a kid there with dreadlocks, and he was like smoking pot, and Bob introduced me to him, and I was like, "Yay, dude, what's up? Right on." Then Bob was like, "Oh, they're a really good band, and they're from New Jersey." And I was like, eye rolling. I'm all, ugh, Jersey. Ugh. Sorry, everyone from New Jersey, because I love New Jersey. I do. I truly, truly do. But back then, I was like, I was too cool for school. I was like, oh, Jersey. I mean, just great scene too. So anyway, because I just didn't know anything, so I was judging it. I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, dude, like that van, that's theirs. They drove out here, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm all, they're babies, they're kids. He's like, I know. He goes, it's crazy, right? So there was a bunch of people there. I think like Jim Cherry was there, and some of the guys from like All Day, and just the Long Beach crew, and like Skunk Records people, and there's just a lot of people there. And so don't think much of it, and then go on about my life. Then one day I was at work, and I got a call from Tom, and I was like, oh yeah, right on, yeah, I remember. Hey, send me a CD or send me whatever. And I was like, oh my God, they're super good. I was like super blown away. And I was like, oh, I said, what would happen like if I gave you guys like a bunch of clothes to wear? Because who needs new clothes? Musicians do.
Bands all the time.
Yeah. Who is on the road all the time? Bands. Who can market your product for you basically for the cost of the clothes? So I was like, this is awesome. So I'm like, if I send you a bunch of shit, will you do me a favor and throw it, and of course Tom was being humble. I was like, so do a lot of people see you guys? Like, is there a lot of, because I live in LA, and you're going to play your heart out for 3 people. And so, yeah, do you guys draw a lot of people? He was like, yeah, we do okay. We mostly play in like VFW halls or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Back then, I was also good friends with Bob's wife, Michelle. And I was like, yeah, by the way, I sent that kid from Bigwig a bunch of stuff. She's like, they're really big back there. And I said, really? I go, he didn't say that. And she goes, well, what's he going to say? We're like this big Jersey band. And I'm all, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. And she goes, oh my God, that's perfect. Tom would be like, listen, Joe, I'm so sorry. Like, so-and-so asked for your number, and, they're going to call you, and like, I'm not promoting, like, and he like was feeling really bad because bands started calling me all the time. Like, hey, will you quote unquote sponsor us?
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, and that's how I got to know like literally some of like my favorite people I have met in my life, which, obviously Tom, obviously Josh, obviously John, and obviously Matt.
Yeah, obviously Matt.
That whole band, all of those guys are like, and I've met a lot of people, and they literally are really like truly my favorite people. Add in there, which, do you know Cooter and Autopilot Off?
Yep.
And Chris Hughes. What was that other kid? He was so funny. Sean McGuckin. Do you know him?
Sean. Was he the drummer of
No, he was like this. He like literally was like Pee Wee Herman Jr. He was like so funny. And I think he was in, I forget what band he was in, but he was so funny.
What's the name again? Josh, what was it? Or
Sean McGuckin.
Oh, there we go. Sean McGuckin. Let me see. Oh, yeah. He actually. Oh, okay.
What
yeah.
band was he in?
He was in Cooter. He was the bassist.
Was
for
he in
Cooter?
Cooter? Yeah.
Yeah, because he just messaged me the other day, And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God,
I
he's
think
so funny.
yeah, he does look like Pee Wee Herman. Oh my God. I'm sorry, Sean.
Totally. And even when he was younger, I'd be like, hey, and he'd talk and he was young. So he'd like blush and his cheeks would get so red. Super funny guy. Um, and so,
Yeah, because that's how we heard about you guys because you were all because in Jersey bands that would come would be like it'd be like Beefcake, Cooter,
love John from Beefcake. Love him.
yeah.
Love John from Beefcake. Hilarious. Lou, who is the roadie, who's like a stand up comedian now.
Oh, is he
Lou
really?
Morgenstein.
Holy shit.
Oh my God, funny.
Yeah, I
I
always
mean,
remember those guys being
funny.
like they were a really funny band or they were like
Oh,
seemed like intimidating guys, but they were just like funny.
oh, I mean, I don't know about the intimidating
I think
part,
just
but
from like
boy, oh
I
boy.
think I just saw them because I was like, wow, these guys seem like tough. I don't know why the fuck I thought that. They probably never came off like that, but for some reason I thought that. But yeah, it was like
Yeah.
because that's how it's so funny because I'm getting the side of it where you're giving these bands that are like especially Bigwig. When I first saw Bigwig, they just had all of this stuff, and I think they might have been John might have been wearing like a serial killer shirt, but then every time their merch table, they'd come and they'd have like stickers, they'd have the comp I want to talk about, definitely, and they'd have the shirts on, and then like Beefcake would show up and they'd have it, and so when you have three bands playing on a show that's got like 6 or 7 bands because that's how we did it in New Jersey, and like three of them have all the serial killer stuff. You pay attention to that, and then
Yeah.
you
Like,
also
who
pay
are these
attention.
people? What's this little scene going on?
Yeah, and it was also like very aggressive stuff. Like I'm actually on eBay right now, and I found a bunch of serial killer stuff. Like
They're
you've
like
got
$100 now.
yeah, it's hilarious. It's like 39 bucks for a 4.5 inch sticker from the Baywatch crew that just says orgy on it,
Yeah.
and it's just
Well,
like
and
it was
let's
so
let's but
aggressive.
let's really really think about this. And because I was thinking about like why would someone want to talk to me from a podcast about serial killer? And then I started just thinking about because those days were really fun. It was just so great and just the people I met. Matt was the originator of the meme. Like pre-internet, he was the guy who like created memes.
That's
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
100%.
and you can't even like I mean, I don't know anyone else who was doing what we were doing except later on there was like a company called like PG-16 or R-16. Like we had a lot of companies start, copying us
Yeah,
obviously.
because it
But
sells. Yeah.
well, and plus it's like, if you have a sense of humor, but some of the stuff only Matt could come up with, like the Tupac design.
Which one
It
was
says
that?
it says kaput. What is kaput spelled backwards?
Oh.
Tupac.
I took this. I was like, why don't I know? Why am I not getting this? But that's
Like, kaput, it means
yep.
like, done,
Yeah.
over. And coincidentally, she's his mom was one person who signed us and we always used to joke around. I'm not even going to tell you the joke. It's really bad. But
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
so we got sued by Florence Henderson because hers said porn queen. She
Oh
was deeply
wow.
deeply offended because she's such a Christian. So, but we didn't run into like a whole lot of people coming after us
I'm surprised
until
by that. I'm really surprised by that.
well, I mean,
Because of now, because just seeing how fast everything gets caught now. I mean, IP
it
is
just was yeah, it just
yeah,
wasn't like because there was the internet, there wasn't the internet,
yeah. There was no way to figure like to spot you like any of your
Yeah,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
people just you would have to go to the store, you would have to go and buy it, and then you'd have to figure out how to get a hold of us, and you'd have to be a buyer and get the catalog and dial up 1-800-69-crime or crime 69, whatever our phone number was, and just everything that like all the details of that company super funny, like even our phone number 1-800-crime 69, the whole marketing campaign of the girls, the porn stars.
That was
Try
yeah.
handing out a business card of two girls having oral sex, like, hi, here's my business card. Oh, sorry,
I mean, I
but
can't even tell you. Like again, like you guys really found out your demographic because it was. I mean, I'm guessing it was like teenage. I don't know, like maybe what 16 to 25-year-olds guys would probably buy the most stuff.
well, No, not really, because I don't think there's a really heavy vibe of like the lowrider scene on the East Coast, but it's very big out here. Like Boyle Heights, downtown LA, Cypress Park. It's very like the lowrider cars. The lowrider tattoo scene is huge, huge. And it's been huge for, God, like 40 years. And lowriders loved our stuff. Loved our stuff.
But I'm thinking about like just the East Coast that like, what caught my attention again. I'm also real quick, your t-shirt catalog is going for $219 on eBay. Like, holy shit. Like I
Whoop,
remember
whoop.
I remember seeing this stuff and that was another thing at the show. Is like that's also what catch my attention. I'm like, okay, there's Bob Barker's Pimp, that was funny. And then the catalog's in my face and it's like naked girls covered by serial killer or naked girls and like kissing each other and I was like, it's like I would look at it and then like look around and be like, is anyone looking at me? Look at this because I'm like, I'm gonna keep looking at this. And I think it's like where I would make sure I took the catalog. I was like, this is fucking. I was like, these are like just naked porn stars, and
Yeah,
obviously I
like
was
you're
like,
embarrassed to look at it
yeah, I
because you're
was like, because
looking
they
at
wouldn't realize I'm
pornography.
just
Yeah,
staring at this shit.
it's hilarious. And that was like the genius of Matt. Like everyone can say, ooh, sex sells. But like
Yeah.
next level, Matt, he was just super, super funny and super smart. He had an ad in, because we advertised in skate magazines. And there was an ad of him at his dad's house, and his dad lived right on the beach in Manhattan Beach on 19th Street. So there's like a full beach view in the background, and there's like he brought in like a desk and it had like a phone, and he's on the phone with his pants down, and he's got like two girls that are performing fellatio on him, fake performing, and because it was a photo shoot, and all it said was, "It's good to be the president." Serial killer, 1-800-CRIME 69. That's it.
Wow.
Didn't show any of our product. And then when we when we started our skate company, what does everyone want to be like? In the skater scene, it's like, oh, everyone wants to be cool. We've got the best skater. We got this. Not us. Matt had one of his friends put in like fake teeth, thick glasses, full helmet, all the pads, and just like going down a hill and just like beefing it and getting up, like all these like like quick shots, just pummeling. And it was just like, serial killer introduces serial killer skates, 1-800-CRIME 69. It was just a guy just couldn't even skate, just a horrible skater. And it was just hilarious. And we did like that campaign for like a year. People
Wow.
loved it. And it was like, look, we're so not cool.
It's like very like Jackass-esque or like before Jackass.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All of like Matt was really like ahead of his time, I mean, it's not like, we took the world over, but what I'm saying is like all of his stuff was very like cool and stuff. God, he was just so funny. He was so funny. I miss him. I miss him all the time. Even our staff were full characters. Full characters. Like there was this guy, Gary. Oh my God, Gary Sanders. He looked like literally like the devil. He had this like totally crazy beard, and he was like, very light skinned, and oh, he was funny too. And he like moved from Florida to come and work for us, and he made a ton of money and took that money and made his own company. I think it's called he created a bong company, I think, and it was really big, and he sold it, and so like he's retired for life. So he's
Wow. It's like I'm jealous of this because it's like now, because nowadays, like, again, for working for myself and doing things, it's so hard. Like, I know how hard it is to constantly try to put ideas out there and they just don't catch. Because I've done so many since I was 17, like being in a band and now being 40 and like still doing, I do this or I do like a comic and I have like like freelance stuff and it's still a struggle. So I'm always fascinated by companies who it works, but I think the reason why it works is because they start something and just go like, this just feels like me. And that's why it works. For some reason, there's always like this. If like anytime I like listen to anything successful, anything, they were kind of like, I just didn't give a fuck. And it seems to not always work, but a lot of them who get that success, like that's how it works.
well, and also too, I think especially now, And really back then, everyone is always so, especially in that industry, they're so like all about being cool. And we were just like, check us out. We're not, ah ha 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 ha. We're dorks. We're idiots. You know, we're just like, ah ha ha. You know, we clowned ourselves. We just did whatever we wanted.
But that's the authenticity we're talking about. I mean, we're not putting on a fucking front here. This is just who we are. And, we're throwing this party for years. Show up if you feel like this is the one for you. And people are like, I got to go to that party.
Yeah, it was always really really cool because there was a lot of trade shows in New York, so I had an opportunity to go and see a lot of the bands that you talk about because I've listened to a few of your podcasts just because when you asked me I was like, oh, I better check this out.
Yeah, absolutely. You're
So
like, what is
then yeah, and then I started seeing, obviously I don't have the time to listen to all of them, but I started seeing like, oh, overdrives, and I was like, oh my god, love those guys. Just going down and seeing the title, and I was like, oh gosh, I saw that band, and oh, I didn't know that band was big. Like, you talk about Weston a lot.
Yeah.
It's so funny because my memory is not 100% clear, but I remember going and seeing, and my whole vibe could be totally off about this, but I remember going and seeing Weston in, I think it was like the downstairs or the basement of someone's house, and it was a really nice house. I met Gabe
From Humble/Midtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of course Tom's like, oh, this is Johanna, serial killer. And I was like, don't tell people that, but it was obvious. Like, I'm 10, 12 years older than most of these people. It's like, who's that old lady? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm much older than these people. And he's like, well, what do you want me to say? I'm all, I don't know. Because it was obvious. Like, I'm like, where's the alcohol? Like, where's the beers? Like, nobody's like drunk. It was just weird whenever I'd go. But I went to this house party. And like Weston was playing, and I think Humble was playing too. And I met Gabe, and he was like this young kid, and he was like, "Oh my god, nice to meet you." Blah, 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 and then like fast forward like 4 years, I go into Tom's record company offices. GFY, right?
Yeah,
Isn't it
GFY?
GFY?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I go into his office. Yeah, and there was somebody with me. I don't know who it was, but I was rolling with somebody. I don't know if it was someone from California or someone from work. I was there for a trade show. I walk in, and there's a guy sitting on the couch, and I'm talking, and he doesn't introduce himself, and that's so rare.
Yeah.
For my experience with people on the East Coast, especially I'm walking into Tom's office. At this point, Tom's a very, very, very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
We hug. Oh my God, what's up? How are you? Blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, this guy's not introducing himself. And I'm kind of in the middle of a conversation with Tom. And I'm like, should I introduce myself? And I'm like, oh, okay. And here's this guy, and he's in like this big, thick, chunky turtleneck. He's got the full, just like sunken in sort of like high cheekbones, full like Zoolander look, and I'm like, hi, I'm Joanna. He's like, Joanna, it's Gabe. I'm all, oh, hi, how are you? But it was like the last time I saw him, he was this like kid that was just like, hey, what's up? And then like here, fast forward like 3-4 years, and he's like, I think he was modeling at the time.
Okay.
And he was just like, he's like, hello. Yeah, like almost like
petting a cat.
Yeah, like petting a cat and like smoking a French cigarette. Hello, Johanna.
Welcome to being around me.
Yes, welcome to my world. You're now entering. Do you know the code? What's the password? And I was just like, oh my God. And I was like, and like after like I left, or I don't know, I was like, Tom, was that like the Gabe? Like, and he's like, yeah. And I'm all, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, he's like a model or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, is that how we act when we're models? Okay. So I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so funny that like, oh, so you go from like this total like, cool little house party, and like, I don't know, just like sort of like Sean McGuckin-esque, like, tons of energy, totally young, to like, hello, dear. So I just like that was just like super super funny. But
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, like,
yeah,
yeah,
and then
Cave is
yeah, and then
Cave.
yeah, and then like then his band like Midtown got like
Blows the
kind of
fuck up. Yeah.
yeah, they got kind of big or whatever, and then he's like, follow my style, be me, I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, yeah, so that was that. So
So tell me about the serial killer comp because that was a real popular one too. How did you put that together and how did you collaborate with Fearless? And like how far into the business, into the life of serial killer did that come out?
we were probably about a year and a half deep. And
Oh
that's
wow.
what's so great about serial killer. Like most businesses, they take like 5 years to like morph into success. I feel like we struggled and we struggled. And then like it hit with the help of all the bands because Blink 182, their merch became a mock of serial killer. So they were mocking themselves,
Oh wow.
because I became good friends with Travis too when he started, what's that company he has?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Stars
yeah.
and Straps.
Yeah, like who the fuck's Matt Skiba shirts and all that stuff.
Yeah. So like he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this line and I'm gonna do like, silver jewelry and belt buckles. I'm all fuck that. Do t-shirts, dude. You wanna make a million? Do t-shirts.
Wow.
So anyway, so Blink 182 started to, they would dress up in like over the top rock star outfits and they take a picture of themselves in the back of a limo and they'd put like rock star. And that was their merch. So they were, because we had sponsored them too. And so they were like mocking us, which was, they tipped their hat to us. We thought that was really funny.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so the comp, how did the comp come about?
Yeah, like
So,
whose idea was it? How was it putting it together, and how did you get together with Fearless?
well, again, Bob's been my friend forever. Hank, like, I met Matt through Hank, because it was his neighbor. And, Hank and Bob were good friends. Bob and I, Bob would be like, hey, Joe, there's this band. Can you throw me some clothes for them? I'm like, yeah, sure. So he was like asking for a little love from us. And I was like, of course. And so then I think we were, because every time Bigwig was in town, first they were staying with Bob, and then they started staying with me.
Slackers.
Well, we were really close to the beach, and I'm a girl, and I hang out with girls, so there's always girls around.
Genius.
And so, like, they stayed with me when they were recording "Stay Asleep."
Oh
That's when
wow.
Tom. That's when Tom. I think he hurt his knee. I think they were supposed to be here for like 2 weeks or something. They ended up staying for like a month and a half or something because they played. They were going to play the Whiskey one show,
I think he
and he.
did talk. I think he might have talked about this in his interview. Sorry, go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he tweaked his knee, and he ended up. They all ended up having to stay. It was just really. I don't know. We just used to have a good time.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't like the epitome of rock and roll here at my pad, but because we were doing like facials and pedicures and manicures and popcorn and movies, and it wasn't like rock and roll. It wasn't
With
like
like the guy bands or with like just you?
yeah,
Yeah. See, it's
yeah.
funny. Like I think
Like we
that
would give the boys facials and they would paint our nails and yeah, like we would have a good time.
I think there was something about that when I moved to California and like when I was like 21, I met a friend who was like a really dear friend of mine, and she would be like, okay, like we're doing like facial things. We're gonna put this cucumber mask on. I was like, fuck yeah, let's do that. That sounds
Yeah,
amazing. I'm like, I'm not doing that shit by myself, but if you're doing it, that gives me the okay to do it for some reason. So it's
it
great.
would be super funny. Like I had like a fireplace in my house, and like it would just be like we'd put on like Waiting for Guffman. Or what was that other movie? Amps Go to 11. What was that?
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ! I have to edit the pause here. Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap. So
Yeah.
we would watch like Spinal Tap. We were really into those movies, and so we would just line up our little thing. The guys would be lined up. We'd give them facials, and we'd watch the movie, give them face. It was just funny, and we'd make dinner. It was just very normal, and that's the way it was when they stayed for long periods of time because they missed home. I would
Yeah,
assume,
and also it was a nice
So we
break
would.
from the road too, because all it was just show, this, and it's kind of comforting if they're doing something like that, getting something like, not music related, not It's like a break.
Yeah, and it became, because Bob had kids and a wife, so it was sort of like we should probably leave for the day because the kids are here or whatever. And here, I'd go to work at Serial Killer, and they would stay here. And I had a lot of friends. They would stop by. They ended up getting to know the guys in Bigwig, so they ended up knowing a ton of people around the South Bay. So they were sort of like they'd go to the store and they'd see someone. They're like, "Oh my God, hey, how are you?" And it was kind of cool. It was like a little bit of I'm going to speak for them. I think it was a little bit of like a home away from home for them when they would come.
Yeah. So how did that transition to the how did that transition to the comp though? Just because you were like, we have cool band friends, like let's put some shit out there and like
I think what happened is, what year did the comp come out? I don't remember.
let's see. I'm looking. All I have is an image on Google on the Google.
On
Yeah.
the information superhighway.
Yeah, on Skynet.
Uh, the intranet.
I think it like 97 or 9. I think it was probably like 97. I don't know why I'm thinking that. Like 96, 97.
Okay, probably. So what
I'm telling
happened
you
was
about the
is
comp you put out, so.
I know. I just, I'm not. I've had a very like a lot of things in my life. Like I don't remember years all that great. But anyway,
That's fine.
so Bob and I would always talk about like, oh, this band and that band, and I really like that band. That was just the relationship Bob and I had. And I think like Tom and John and Josh and Matt, they would be like, oh yeah, like I would be like, oh, I don't really like that. And we talk about East Coast bands. I'm not really into that. No, they're really good. You got to listen to that. So we would always like listen, and then I would be like, hey, you guys, like the Queers are in town. Do you guys, I'm on the list. Do you guys want to go? And like some of the guys would want to go, some wouldn't. They'd stay home. They'd go with me, meet them. And so it's just, I knew all these people, and they were like, Joe, you really, really like should start a record label. And I'm all, please, I can only handle so much in my life. And so I think it was like Bob and the guys from Bigwig that were like, we'll all do it together. We'll help. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't really have like, all that much time to like communicate. And so I presented it to Matt, and Matt was like, oh yeah, that's totally cool. He's like, I don't want to be involved. It's all you. I'm all, that's totally cool. So, Bob and
Wow.
I just started to talk about it, and we made a wish list. And, by this time I'd also been on the Warp Tour a lot. Again, Fletcher was involved, and he's like, yeah, you guys want to, make some money? And I was like, yeah, we always are looking to make money. We're a business. And he was like, just bring a shit ton of t-shirts, come to the Warp Tour. So I met a bunch of bands. I would just say like, hey, if we did a comp, do you guys have a song? Like if you guys may be interested? And they're like, totally. And I asked a bunch of people, everyone was totally into it. And so I said, okay, so I don't think we have a problem for content with a combination of sponsoring bands. It was just like, we can totally pull this off and do it fairly easy. So I was like, and I said, so what are we going to do about the financial portion? Bob's like, I'll take care of all that, contracts. I said, okay, cool. I said, so I'll take care of the rest, and I'll pick the songs or, whatever people have already recorded. Because, some people don't want to spend money to record a song. They just like,
Yeah.
pulled a song off of wherever. And I said, but I really want to focus on some bands that don't get this type of opportunity. Yeah, we can do the Blank and the Queers and the Strung Out and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But let's pull in some bands that are like, this is going to be the best thing for them to date for their career or for their music, whatever,
Yeah.
desire, whatever you want to call
Exposure.
it. And
Yeah.
yeah, like whatever. We just handpicked bands. We took a lot of time to, listen and, see if because, you can't have like really great quality in one area and then like really shitty quality for another.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we had to kind of boot some people off because of quality. And it turned out, I mean, it was really, 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 really hard to cut, some people.
You don't have to say any. You don't have to say any names, but like, were there like some bands that you like that were gonna be on it that you couldn't put on, or did you just only like the ones that got on were the ones that where you were like, yeah, you guys are all definitely on.
Oh, of course, because we weren't just doing like indie punk bands. We were involved with Pantera and Anthrax and,
Oh, wow.
lots of really great big metal bands.
Holy shit, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so, we were giving them apparel and got a little bit of like the rock star bullshit of like, oh, you got a color manager. And I'm like, late. Like anyone who ever said that to me, I was all, no, that's not, this is like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm not a meddler. I don't know how the metal scene works, but that's not how we roll.
Yeah.
So this is DIY. Either you're in or you're out. I mean, if you're tied to a label, great. Then you're doing you. And, if your label's not going to let you do it, then this is just not the project for you.
Right.
We were unable to put Pantera and Anthrax on there. And it got to be what we noticed, like a little bit of a pain when it came to those kind of bands that weren't, I mean, Anthrax was not that big. I mean, they're big.
They were
not,
they were big, but they weren't like.
They weren't like Pantera. They weren't
yeah.
like, Metallica.
Yeah.
But so they had managers and labels to get approval. It was just too much, and I didn't want to be like, oh, well, we're still in talks with Anthrax 6 months later. Like, I didn't want that. I was just like, no, late. Because if it becomes too much of a problem, then it becomes not fun. And it was very important that it was really all about the fun. We made sure that it was really, really easy from a legal perspective. So, yeah, we just had to kind of, and it was more of like the rock star type of people that we couldn't work with. And it was really not out of like desire or because they were being lame. It's just the way the music industry works, that like, the last thing we want is to get sued by a label down the road. And if there was any slight smell of that, we're like, totally not worth it.
Did you pay any of the bands to be on it, or was it like were they compensated when they got the CDs and like you would send them all like, okay, you get everyone gets like 200 copies, and then whatever you sell, like you keep?
Yeah, I think everyone got a bunch of the comps that they all got like pretty much lifetime supply of whatever they wanted and had. And believe me, when they were in town, they would come and shop. As far as getting paid like hard, firm cash, I don't think that was part of the deal, because it's like the comp was like $3.99, and it's like you want 1/28 of a dime. You know what I mean? It was like, and even my band being on there, it was just like, who cares? Like, this is fun. This is just a cool thing to be a part of. Even the art was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just being in that group of bands, it was fun.
Who are the actual, or both of them? Were both of them porn stars, or were they models?
Yeah.
Just like, okay. Like, was that like a big thing when you did those ads? Were they like legit porn stars that you hired, or were you like friends with them to like just say, hey, we need some marketing help? And they're like, yeah, sure.
100%. So,
wow.
You can't, like, when we started out, everything was like, oh yeah, I'll totally help you. Like, we had our friends come in and make those phone calls to stores, to say like, hey, but once we started making money, you can't not pay people. It's like, oh, we're going to take all the money. You can't do that. When we started talking about this stuff to Janine, a friend of ours from when we grew up, he was married to her.
Like Janine? Like
yes. Janine.
I thought that was her on the cover.
Yeah.
Oh, and fucking Josh Overdrives. You were fucking wrong. Sorry, go on.
Who did he say it was?
I think I had mentioned in his interview that it was her, and I think he's like, from what I recall, I might have been flipped, but I think I said, I was like, I think that's Janine. He's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that is.
Oh, no, yeah, totally is her. It's the real deal.
Fuck you, Josh.
Well, but what's so funny is that, like, fast forward a couple years, Blink put, what's her name? Who's that other porn star?
No, it was her. She was the same. She was the one on the cover for the album that blew them up, when they're walking naked. They're running naked in the video and all that. She's in it. Enema of the State. That's it.
Like everything else, a friend of a friend of a friend. Like, and that's the thing, is that, like, if you're cool to people, people are going to be cool to you. And then when you get yourself in a position where you're making money, you have to do your connections or your friends righteous. You have to be like, listen, we're getting paid here, and now this is you. So when we started talking to her, and she did a couple ads for us for like skate companies, we didn't pay her. But then when we did like a full campaign, we were able to do a real photo shoot and do a real spread and a real, no pun intended, do a real,
Heyo.
do like the real deal.
That's wild.
We were able to pay her, and we paid her, fair market value.
Yeah.
If we were going to pay her full market value, we maximized that, and we made posters, and she was on like 6 of our catalogs, and we milked that because it was just so great. Like I said, super embarrassing giving out your business cards like Johanna Hackett, general manager. Yes, that is 2 girls doing exactly what you think they're doing, but let's just ignore that. There's my number. There's my email.
That would be an interesting conversation at the local Chamber of Commerce on a Friday morning networking event, which I'm sure you do.
Oh my God. So embarrassing.
This is Joanne. She has a little company. Here's a business card.
So mortified. So when I, collected all the songs from everybody, I left it really to Bob to, we submitted the art, we submitted the music, did everything, what we needed to do. And he put it all together and he sequenced it. I didn't have much pull in the sequencing because my band is 20, but
was there like a different lineup that you wanted it to be on the disc, on the CD?
Well, of course, I want all my good friends to be first, but it's cool.
I'm sure. Beefcake being number 3 between Pulley and No Use for a Name. That's not a bad spot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was great, and when it came out, we were really, really, really happy. Are you familiar with the Chemical People?
I'm thinking like the Chemical Brothers, the producer.
No. Yeah. Chemical People is the guy who owns that apparel line called Chaser.
Okay.
He comes from like the Maybelline family.
Okay, that I've heard of.
Yeah, he was really good friends with like the Descendants and all that whole scene. So that was like a whole like scene of music, because the guys in the Descendants had a practice studio over on in Lameda on Eshelman, and that's where Hank's bands used to practice, was over at the Descendants studio. So I'm a big fan of the Chemical People. I think they're a really great band. And there's another band called Left Insane that they're from that scene too. So, but what's really great, I'm looking at the cover of the CD right now, and what's really great is that like every single band, there's like a story, and I love that. Like we played with at the Drive-In downtown LA at Al's Bar, which is now closed. And I had do you remember those old school, big, huge cars? They were called Travelols. They were like they came out in the 60s, and it was like what would be considered like a big, huge SUV now. We had one for our band. Our Travelall caught on fire. Like the guys from At the Drive-In like literally saved our life. It was just super, super, super funny. So like there's just a neat story about like all of the bands here. Cooter, those guys are just hilarious. They're just, everybody that was involved with this compilation they're just great, and there's just like a ton of stories.
It seems like it was just like a very non-dramatic. I mean, I'm sure there was things, but it seems like, I'm sure it wasn't as easy as I'm thinking hearing this, but because you're picking out the best parts. But it sounds like the majority of the time it was a pretty like, this is fucking fun, and sure there was like stress, but it was overshadowed by just the culture you created and the vibe, the tone you set, and the fact that you guys were like making money.
Yeah, and I mean, I from my memory, I do believe that it really was sort of from my perspective, and the portion of the job that I did for this, it was very bro. It was very like, yeah, hey, do you like that song? Is it recorded good enough for you? Totally cool. It's all good. Like, it just was very simple, and it flowed. And that's the way, when something's right, it's just right. Yeah. And that's the way. And don't get me wrong. It's not like it wasn't a lot of work to do Serial Killer. It's not like it wasn't a lot of work to, do this compilation, but everything was just right. And when things are right, they fall into place. It's like they say about relationships. It's like, if you have to work that hard in a relationship, it's not meant to be. I understand you have to work really hard for things, but when things just fall into place constantly for you, it's just so meant to be. And I remember that feeling that I had when Matt and I talked, when we had our first business meetings, and when things just unfolded. It's like everything just felt good, everything was right. And it was just like, this feels good, this feels right. I knew in my heart of hearts that this was going to be totally successful.
That's awesome.
And I have never had that feeling since. Like, I have never been so sure of something than I was about, serial killer. It was a moment in time that was extremely fun. And I'm really glad that I was old enough, like a maturity level where it wasn't like, I don't feel like going to work today. It was never like that. And I'm glad that I was educated enough in business to make sure we made some good moves, because we denied doing like big box stuff, doing like the larger companies, just because we didn't want to be quote unquote sellouts. It's a lot of work to deal with like smaller companies. So you have to work probably like 20 times as hard to fulfill a small order than you do to fill like, like a $500,000 order.
Yeah.
We were like, let's just do this. Like, and so then that's when we got into like Gadzooks. And then we had people like PacSun that were approaching us to do like special stuff for them.
Damn.
And we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to be like, oh, let's have a picture of a guy surfing and it says like, oh, eat sand or pound sand. Like, no, like people were really trying to like get us to do some corny stuff for a lot of money. And we were like, no, I think we're just going to keep going down this road.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's a really, really great experience. And I've met some of, my dearest friends through doing serial killer. I love it. I loved that experience. Here's the funny part is that when I lived in New York, because I lived in the city for a little bit and then slowly moved my way up. The last place I lived was, what was it called? It was called Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow. When I would go to New York before, when I was doing serial killer, I was like always going to shows and always seeing those guys. But when I moved there, I didn't really see anybody, because that just wasn't like, I wasn't into going to shows as much. I talked to them on the phone. I mean, I still talk to, a lot of those guys on the phone, but as your life changes, things change and
We grew out
you're
of
into
shit.
different things.
Yeah. You're kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of not in this anymore. Or, yeah.
Well, and that's what's so crazy to me. Is Bigwig like the last man standing?
Kind of. Let's see. I mean, the Bouncing Souls are still playing, but
Of course.
they were kind of huge by the time that we got to know them. But yeah, I mean, it's like other bands kind of came out a little bit after, like I'd say the biggest Jersey band now, I came in after the scenes, like Gaslight Anthem, and they're like doing really well. But Bigwig, Tom lives in like Tennessee and he does bluegrass, but he does get
No,
the band
yeah, I
together.
still talk to Tom. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely talked to him. I know what he's up to,
But
but
yeah,
in
I think
terms
that
of like the scene,
oh yeah,
I
I think
thought
they
that
are the
I,
last
I
ones.
I thought that like Autopilot Off was gonna like do like a major label, and
They
like I
did.
really thought,
They didn't,
oh,
didn't they? I thought they did. And they got signed,
I don't
changed the
know.
name from Cooter to Autopilot Off, and they did a
Yeah, I
record.
remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then it kind of just dissolved. I think because maybe the label dissolved or something like that. I don't really remember.
I thought they were gonna play music for forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were just constant. I mean, my old band would run into them on the road because they were just like, we would just
They were
randomly,
gnarly.
they were
They were
just
so
always
gnarly,
on the fucking
hardworking.
road. Yeah, it was insane.
They were, and they were all really just really great guys. I think not Chris Hughes, but the other Chris married like Chris Hughes' sister, and so I was just really surprised that they. I mean, here, what is it, like 20 plus years later?
20
But
years, yeah.
I mean, Bigwig is still standing. I'm sure there's the different members, but like, I mean, I know Tom's doing the bluegrass thing, but I can't. I mean, I can't believe that. I guess I guess Bigwig is like the East Coast DIY version of like our Pennywise. You know what I mean? Because Pennywise is still at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just did a big show this past Saturday with Rancid, Suicidal, Off, Keith Morris's new band Off, and they're still huge crowds, and I'm sure that's the same way for Bigwig too.
Yeah, I know Matt Gray just played a show with them over like a year ago when they played with the Boss Tones, and then
How funny.
Josh played another show with them recently.
Josh
Um,
Farrell
Josh Farrell, yeah, he played a show with
in
them.
Canada.
I think it was because that's where he lives, right?
Yeah, yeah, he lives in Canada.
Yeah, I
He's
think
married.
I forget what because there's a picture of him playing them on stage together. I think it was in Canada. There's an like I'm trying to think as you're talking about this, I'm thinking of other punk bands that are like still they like two of them popped in my head, but I can't fucking remember. But I mean, yeah, it's just to just it was funny like being in a band back then. I'm like, oh man, I want to do this forever. I can't even imagine doing that shit now. I've had this conversation with many people where I'm like, you couldn't put a gun in my fucking head and be like, you're gonna be on the road touring for like the next month. I'd be like, hell no.
Well, and what's so funny? I totally feel the same way because
You did it too.
but not only that, it's like because I think the gig this past Saturday, it was right in San Pedro, very close. It's like 20 minutes away. My friend Adam is like, "Oh my god, my girlfriend really wants to go, and I don't want to go." I'm all, "Oh, dude, bummer. You're bumming when you don't want to go to a show and you have to go."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Come on, just come with." I'm all, "No, dude, I don't want to do. I can't do the crowds. I can't be like attacked on my head. Like I don't want my head bashed in when Brohim play. Like I can't. And it's funny because it's like I feel like, oh, I only want to go to a show if I'm like backstage because I don't want to be bothered with the crowds and the people, and I don't want to walk and stand in a line for 3 hours to get some water. Like I can't do it. I
Yeah.
feel like I did it for so long with so many people and this, that, the other, that it's like, no way. I
I am
can't even imagine.
right there with you with the anxiety of crowds or things like that, or just even driving like 20 minutes. I'm like, I don't want to drive fucking 20 minutes or
Well, it's so funny too because Fletcher, he has a restaurant in Hermosa. It's called the Standing Room. He'll have bands play there once in a while, and it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's literally like, no joke, like 5 minutes away. I had to work. I was in the middle of like a really big project, and he calls me and he's like, "Oh yeah, my birthday party. Don't tell anybody, but it's gonna be really fun. Just come." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm tired. I gotta work in the morning." But he's like, "Just come." And I'm like, I can't, dude. And he's like, if you don't come, you're going to be bummed and then you're going to be mad at me. And I'm like, dude, I can't. And he goes, all right, the Descendants are playing. I'm all right, I'll be there.
oh wow.
So I will do like that. I'll go to like, and so it was like 100 people or 150. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. No
Wow.
problem. Because I also, I love the guys in the Descendants. They're super, super, super cool. So that was great. I stayed. I experienced and I left.
Yeah. I got the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah, because it was just like I just can't do it. And I don't even know how anybody does it. Like, and I back Matt Gray, yeah, do it one off, Josh, do a one off. I just don't know how people do it still. Like even
Yeah.
Fletcher, even the Pennywise
Oh my
guys, I'm
God,
like,
the fact they're still doing that, like, and the singer, God damn it, what's the singer's name?
Jimmy,
Jimmy. Like, he did that whole documentary about like being the punk rock dads.
fathers about fatherhood.
Yeah, and it was so awesome. And in the whole thing he's in, he's just like, I quit. He was right when he quit the band, and he's like went back in it recently, but which you probably obviously know. But he,
Hmm.
when he did the documentary, the whole time he's just like, yeah, I just don't want to be on the road anymore because I got three girls and I want to be home. And then when I heard recently or a couple years ago he got back in the band, I was like, dude, that must suck because he was just not about it.
It's hard, but when you're given a gift, talk about kicking a gift horse in the mouth. Like, how can you, how, I don't know. It's you gotta do what makes you happy, but I just can't imagine, like, I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Like, Pennywise is going strong. They're not going anywhere. And I'm always shocked by that.
Well, they're
I'm
like
like,
classic now.
yeah, and I just go, whoa. That's the great thing about like Byron and Randy and Fletcher. They know how lucky they are.
Yeah.
It's like Tim Armstrong. I'll never forget the time at the Warp Tour. We were in New York and we were going to go to dinner. It was like 10 o'clock. It's a Warp Tour. It's 10 o'clock at night. It's 11 o'clock. It's 11:30. And I'm like, are you guys kidding me? Like, I'm starving. He was like, hold on. I'm going to be here to the last person. And he did.
Wow.
He signed that kid's last little, like, whatever, t-shirt, spoke to every single person. And I'm like, you know what? There's a special place in heaven for him. Like, that's a lot of gratitude for your fans. There's like 3 busloads of people going, fuck him, we're hungry. and he literally was just like, sorry, go without me. Go without me. I don't care. I really, really like that. Because, that's not how everybody is. Henry Rollins. Everyone's not super grateful for what they have. I think that's really like a big key to longevity in
I think like you said, it's
music.
When it doesn't feel like work, it's work is putting work into something is work, but work doesn't have to mean a negative thing. It could just mean something you truly love and you're putting time towards. But you look at the clock, you're like, wow, 6 hours just went. Where the hell did that go? But it's when you hate it, you're like, oh my God, 6 minutes and that's it?
I know. I got to go to the bathroom again. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You spend your whole day in the bathroom. You're just like, ugh.
You're
so
like,
true.
You pick up smoking, just go outside a lot. You're like, I just need to get out of the fucking office.
I need to get out. Yep, totally.
So I'm gonna wrap up with a couple. I'm gonna wrap this up, but I do want to get like one good Matt story because you said you had a bunch, and then I want to ask you 2 final questions, and we'll wrap it up because I do have to end this pretty shortly.
Matt Gray?
No, serial killer Matt.
Oh God. So Matt, he had a very offbeat humor, and a lot of things that I thought were, funny, he did not think were funny, and things that I thought were so not funny, he thought were just completely hilarious. When bands were in town, they would always stop by and pick up whatever, skateboards, ask us to put one of our skateboards together or pick up clothes, or they didn't want to do laundry, so they'd come and get new clothes. And so we always had bands there. Matt liked to party a lot. A lot of Matt partying stories, which guys from Bigwig can attest to. And we had a band that was I'm not going to mention their name. They were specifically from Florida. They came in and they're super nice guys, really great. And they went in the back. We had our manufacturing there on site. So they went in the back and they were looking at all the new bright, shiny stuff, and they weren't that into it. And so we had all these seconds that were in the dumpster. And so Matt had invited them to get high. And so they totally got high, totally were partying, totally were acting like super crazy, outrageous, like totally fucking with our staff. And it just got really crazy. Then Matt and the guys in that band were like digging through our dumpster. So here we have like famous band that makes good money, and Matt, who is doing this, multi-million-dollar company, they're dumpster diving. And they're all totally high. At one point, like our warehouse crew like had to like pull them out of the dumpster. They were just like, dude, like, I don't care what band you're in, get the fuck out of here. And then like Matt got into like a boxing match with our warehouse worker. And so then there it is. It's like, guys in this band are fighting with our warehouse crew, and Matt, who's signing paychecks for these people, is like fighting his own staff. And I'm like, oh my God, stop, everybody stop, hold the phone. And it was just like, oh my God, it was like super, super crazy, all because they wanted crappy, damaged, shitty, dirty serial killer stuff.
I wonder if they still have the shirts. Like they, I mean, that's a big ass. I definitely have a shirt from 20 years ago that I still wear, but that'd be fucking amazing if they still have like,
oh my God,
one of those.
It was so funny. And then of course, like the next day we're like, Matt, that was so fucked up. And he's like, it wasn't even that big of a deal. You guys are dramatic. And I'm like, oh really? We're dramatic. Like it was just so, and like, yes, you look back and you're like, it was so funny. And then of course that night people in the warehouse and all of us went to go see that band, and we were just like, hey, what's up? And they're just like, oh God, yeah, no problem. Like it was like everyone just brushed it off like it ain't no thing. And I'm like, wow. But that was kind of like the temperature of the office culture. Crazy shit would happen, and everyone just be like, okay, it's a great place to work. Next.
I feel like I had a fun version of the scene back then, but I feel like I got like the kindergarten version of what was really going on, of what was around me, or just like when people or when companies that were in the scene or bands that were in the scene, the experiences they had just seemed to be so much more like a story would be one of those where you're like, can I tell this? And like the stories
Yeah.
that we went through were like I'm like, this is kind of crazy. They're like, that's really not that crazy. I'm like, I know.
Well, but that's what was so refreshing about um, going out there to the East Coast and seeing these bands. Their passion was the music, and it was like it didn't matter if it was like at a VFW or at a firehouse or a fire station. And like, of course, me, I live in LA, so I'm like, wait, you have to drive through all these like forests and bushes and these crazy roads, and then like all of a sudden there's the firehouse where we're playing.
And there's 300 kids outside ready to go in and like go
And I'm like,
crazy.
where are these kids coming from?
Yeah.
Where are they coming from? Would you remember a girl from the scene? I can't remember her name, but she had a zine. It was called Peas and Carrots.
I don't remember that. I know Annoying. I mentioned the interview prior to this was Kelly from Annoying Girl, and she had interviewed Brackett.
Yes,
She was friends with Brackett.
Kelly.
Yeah.
That was her name. That was her name. She would stay with me when she came out to LA too. She was a really, really cool
I
chick.
don't remember her zine be called Peas and Carrots. Like maybe it was called that prior to Annoying Girl.
Maybe. I don't know. I just remember
I'll have to,
Peas and Carrots.
I have to. We have a Facebook group called the North Jersey Pop Punk Group. It's like 94 to 97 or something like that. And that's how this whole podcast started. Was just people kept just for some reason people went on a rampage in the last 2 years and just were like, here's patches, here's stickers. So it's kind of like this like smaller version of Google from the Jersey scene to ask questions. So I'm gonna post that right now and see what the fuck that was.
There was something I remember like, yes, I remember Annoying Girl. Yes, Kelly. What's Kelly's last name?
Oh man, I forget. It's been so
She
long.
was just
She dated
she was
Josh from Humble.
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
because you
But
you said
I
you did.
remember she was good friends with the guys in Bracket. And I think that's how Bracket ended up on that comp too, is from her.
Okay, I thought it has to be her. I totally forget it though. God damn it.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now? Like like actually, how long ago did serial? I know I said like two more, but I just really want to quickly know this. Like when did serial
That's
killer
okay.
when did serial killer end, and like where did that take you just currently?
So Serial Killer started like 94. There was a lot of offshoots of Serial Killer. We did a girls line, another line called Ghetto Bird, which I don't think that's like a politically correct word anymore.
Okay.
That's what I read. That's what I read the other day. Um, and we did another line called Dope. There was all these like offshoots and all these lines, and then obviously we started to get sued a lot. No, I wouldn't say a lot. Probably like nothing ever came of any of them. We got cease and desist for like four things. One of them Tupac, one Mrs. Brady, Florence Henderson, one Bob Barker, then all the Scarface stuff. That's when we started doing other lines and stuff. Like anything else, I wanted to do something different. So I moved to New York. And then when I came back from New York, Matt was still doing Ghetto Bird. We were shipping strictly to the East Coast. So we were doing a lot of like Seaside Heights, all those like vacation spots out there.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Not so much the Hamptons, but the other ones. And this is pre Jersey Shore, but we sold to that, I forget the name of that t-shirt shop, that big one.
That okay. Yeah, on the boardwalk and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we sold a lot of boardwalk stuff. Matt ended up getting arrested and going to jail, and we continued the company. Matt took his own life, and then we did the company for about a year. It was a true partnership between Matt and I. We couldn't do it anymore if we didn't have the quote unquote the art portion. So his parents decided just to call it a day.
Yeah.
So we packed everything up. I took a little bit of a break, and then I started working. I worked for another apparel company and another one, and I was just like, it wasn't my passion really anymore. Then I started working for a nonprofit, which I do now. I advocate for the Los Angeles River.
Oh, wow.
And I'm the operations partnership manager there. It's really fulfilling, and it's great. It's really nice. It's very different than anything I've ever done. It's really true, like what they say, like when you've done really everything you want to do, it's like it's time just to like sort of like turn the page and do for other people, which I do feel like I did do that through Serial Killer, and I got to give back a lot in a very, very different way, but I feel like I truly get to do that now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm always trying to. I might actually email you after this or text you about that because I feel like I've come to a point now where I've just done the creative thing for so long and it's just not really going anywhere. I'm like, how can I like do something that's fulfilling? Because I feel like the major things I'm doing for like a full-time thing are just so just blah.
Well, it's daunting, and
Yeah.
sometimes, and here's the thing too, is that like I have brought my creative edge to, this job as well. I've brought my music connections to this job as well, because any job that you do, it's a reflection of you and you bring your personality with you. Here I am working for a nonprofit, and I can help the nonprofit create donations for bands that would play for the cause. We've done like big concerts with Ozo Motley. I don't know if you know who Ozo Motley is, but
Mm-mm.
they're like a really, really big, like, what do they call that? That gets like world music.
Okay.
And they're really big. We did a big concert with Moby.
Oh, wow.
He's a total like vegan kind of hippie guy. Having that knowledge and background of how to do that kind of stuff has been key for my job, and it morphed me into a different position because of that background and knowledge.
Yeah.
You take whoever you are wherever you go.
Yep.
If you present that to, like, hey, I know these people, they do this, can it hurt to reach out to them? No. Then you reach out, and if they're down, they're down. Who knows what chapter is next for you, but you're always going to bring who you are wherever you go. That vibe is not going to die of who you are.
Yeah, it's like kind of getting the fire back to that vibe that you know exists and being like, I'm just not being myself. And that's where it's not really happening.
Yeah, and it's different too because,
It's really why I started this. It's like because I needed that creative outlet and
well, you're giving, and still you're giving back to people. Like, you've jogged my memory, and it's like, oh my God, it's giving me like a whole new type of gratitude for the relationship. Like, I don't talk to like Josh from Bigwig like every day,
yeah.
but it's just like, oh, it just warms my heart every time I think of him. And because you have to remember, like, they were kids, they were so young, they were like 20,
Yeah.
and I was like 30. I felt like such a connection with them because they're just trying to like do their thing. And so you're giving back in a different way by saying like, hey man, look at this connection we all had. Like, because you can't really appreciate it in the moment, but you can look back and go, you know what, that was like a really good vibe, a really good time. You can never recreate it completely, but you can bring something to something else with that same sort of vibe and that same sort of connection.
Yeah. No, that actually that helps.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. You're right. That's
Yeah.
no, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm glad it jogged some good memories. I was actually, and I am gonna wrap this up now, but I just talked to. Do you remember the band Jill? They were like a smaller indie. I don't say indie band. They were like a pop punk band from Texas.
I don't.
They were like bands like Zoinks or Sicko. They used to play with those guys.
I
Um,
know those bands, but I don't remember Jill.
I talked to Danny from Jill. I interviewed him the other day because that'll come out before yours. And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I really had a fun talking about this. I mean, it jogged my memory. And I was like, dude, he's like, I have so many pictures and recordings. I'm like, why don't you put that up? And he's like, you think anyone cares? I'm like, fuck yeah, people care. And he like literally got off the interview, and within like I think 30 minutes, he had made a Facebook page, and all of these people started commenting right away. And I messaged him. I was like, fucking told you. Like, people really
And
love
that's what
remembering it.
feels and that's what feels so good, because it's like I think back and I'm like, oh my God, when we did a Christmas tour with Bigwig. And again, at that time, I wasn't really clear how big Bigwig was. We had rented a van and we did the whole thing, and it was really super fun. And I was thinking about each and all the guys. And I remember one of the things that from John from Bigwig said to me, because there's so many horse stories. Everyone's got their Everyone's got their own personality. And there's a million stories with everyone. But it's so funny because one of the things that stands out to me, and I've thought about this so much, is John said to me, and he was so young and so innocent. He thought it was such a compliment, and it totally wasn't. He's like, we played this pancake house in the Poconos in the basement, either on the way there, on the way back. Like I drove the car off the cliff and they had to push us out. It was just a lot of drama because I wasn't used to driving in the snow, blah, blah, blah. And, after we played, John's like, God, Johanna, you really have like a Fletcher vibe when you play up there. And I'm like, really? I'm a girl. Really? I remind you of Fletcher. Thanks, John. Thanks. And he was like, you're welcome. And I was like, no, I'm being sarcastic right now, John. No girl wants to be called Fletcher. He was like, oh, yeah. Well, I didn't mean it like that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
You see, it's funny because when you said that,
what do you say?
When you said that, I was like, wait, I don't find that to be bad. I'm like, oh God, I didn't even see it. I'm just thinking about energy. That's what I would have seen it like. You have that energy of the only other person I know of who has crazy energy is Fletcher, and like you.
I was like, oh my God, John. It was just, and so like it, jogging all those funny memories. So it's just a really, I don't know. It just makes you feel really grateful for that large chunk of time and having those forever relationships with those people. Again, like every time I talk to them, it's like never skip a beat. It's like, oh my God, how are you? How's your kids? So it's just funny.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I am gonna wrap this up because I do have to bring my dog to the vet, and I gotta pee so bad.
Totally. I know it's 2.5 hours later. Sorry.
No, trust me, this is great. This is so much fucking fun talking about all this, and I got to learn so much stuff that I really would have wanted to know. Like again, every time I do these, I always say this, but like 17-year-old me would be like shitting himself right now.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the bigwig guys always used to say, like, "Yee, shaka bra, South Bay bra." It's like, okay. That always used to clown me.
What do you want to plug before I ask the last question?
What do I want to plug? God, I don't really have anything to plug. Gosh, I mean, I just.
It could be about you. It could be about someone else. You can do a give. It could just be something that people should know about. Or you could just be completely selfish and be like, I'm doing this. You should totally fucking go check it out.
I don't really have anything that I know this is going to sound like, oh God, my boring life. I just have to say there's just a lot of good bands that are still coming out of the South Bay, That's really all I can say is that, like, South Bay was a great place to live and, check out as many bands as you can. There's Special C. There's just a lot of bands. That's it. It's really very uneventful. Sorry, but I don't have anything to plug.
No, that's
I don't.
I think you should just plug the $200 serial killer merch that's available on eBay.
Right? Oh my God! I'm gonna start selling my catalogs. Maybe I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna retire with all my serial killers.
If that shit is going for $200, just put yourself on there and being like, "I'm the original owner, and here's some merch." People will be like, "What?"
I know. Seriously, when my dad passed away about 3-4 years ago, he had all the catalogs, and I'm all, "Thank you, Dad." And I was like, "Thank you." And so I didn't even know that's. I mean, I knew the T-shirts were crazy, but not the catalogs.
Wow. Yeah, it's probably just because the art. All right, so last question: what scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
Scene. I mean, isn't it obvious? DIY. I mean, it's like if you DIY and wherever you're going up, you're going to meet the same people going down. So don't be an asshole to anybody. Just always be cool to everybody because you never know where you're going to land. I have a very strong belief in doing it yourself. If you can't do it alone, you do it with somebody else who has those same beliefs. But it's that, the whole scene is really all about DIY. It's about what you can give and what you can take. And the more you give, the more you get, really.